Hi, I'm Steve Saylor, I'm blind, and if you're wondering how I'm able to play video games if I'm blind, if you take a look at the video here, or if the link is not there, click the link in the description down below to see exactly what I see when I'm playing video games. This is a very off-the-cuff kind of video. Normally I would want to be able to like script this out and sort of really kind of put a bit of kind of production into this, but I feel like there's just so much happening in my head right now that I need to sort of just sit down and just kind of get it out and off the cuff as best as possible. I actually have to take myself to task a little bit. Over the past year, we've heard so much about accessibility with The Last of Us 2. And it's been a topic and it's been something that people are aware of now, which is amazing. And it's so great that people are excited about accessibility and want to be able to talk about it more, and that's great. However, I've lost focus of this in that The Last of Us 2 wasn't the end of accessibility. It's not like it came out and like, great, awesome, we solved accessibility, yay, we're done. No, The Last of Us 2 wasn't the end of accessibility. It was the end of the beginning. I actually just recorded a talk that will be going up soon that I did in partnership with Ian Hamilton, and in it we talked about the past 10 years of accessibility in video games and the history of it, and sort of like the milestone moments over the past 10 years. And yes, agreed, there is more momentum like over the past just few years in video games that like with accessibility, that there's so much happening for accessibility that to a certain degree it's kind of hard to keep up. But there is still a vast majority of video games that are not accessible to disabled players. And we're not talking about past games. We're not talking like, although that is something that is still like this now kind of being brought up with services like Game Pass. It's great to be able to have over 100 plus games in there, but there is still a majority of those games not accessible to disabled players. And the vast back catalog of games that people are sort of rediscovering again has been great, but they're not accessible. I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm talking about even like games that are coming out in 2020 and 2021. Now, on the game development side, I know that takes time, and a lot of games that we're seeing released last year and this year have been worked on for the past several years. And majority of those games or those devs didn't know about what was going to be like, what The Last of Us was going to have in regards to accessibility, or what that kind of conversation was going to be in 2020. So I understand that there are going to be games that there's going to be a period of a few years where we're not going to have the point where the majority of games coming out within that year are going to be have at least some accessibility options in there, or at least built with accessibility in mind. However, but that doesn't mean that we need to stop talking about it. The thing that I've kind of started to see a little bit more of is there are places and outlets and stuff like that are not wanting to talk about accessibility because it's not trending. And that's something that needs to change. Accessibility is not trending. Accessibility is about human beings. It's about human life. Accessibility is allowing players to be able to play games regardless of their disability. And I fully like, it's not a trending topic. It's something that now needs to be a part of like a lot of the topic of conversations around video games. We need to have outlets talk about, like, whenever they're doing reviews for games, to be able to ask, what is the accessibility like in these games? We need to, when these stories come out of games being announced or certain gameplay features or whichever, there has to be that question added in there. What is the accessibility angle of this? What will this do for disabled players? We need to have that. We need to have those those things in mind, because the more we talk about it, the more people that talk about it, it doesn't necessarily put pressure on studios, but it shows the studios that we want it. We want to have accessibility in games, and that they can make money by creating accessibility as part of their workflow when making their games. It's not just a niche thing or like a nice to have, or oh, this is just for these types of players. No, you like The Last of Us shows that you can make a lot of money just based almost on accessibility alone, and that's huge. Like that, I know that there are devs that were wanting to be able to push this, but we also need to be able to convince the higher ups that are making these large decisions that accessibility is important. It's important to their player base. It's important to their pocketbooks, but it's also just important in general. We're starting to see that now. We're starting to kind of see the foundations being made, but we can never forget that we need to be talking about accessibility a lot more than it just being popping up only as a trending topic. We can't be. There's not going to be a Sekiro or a Celeste or The Last of Us or an Assassin's Creed that's going to come out every day that that has accessibility in there, that's part of the story. We're not going to have that. We need to be able to basically have that as part of the conversation. And I know that that's something that's like, well, who cares? And some people are, I know that guaranteed there are some people that think about this. Well, who cares? You should care, because you probably have a friend of yours that or a family member that needs these kind of options. Then you realize you are probably going to need these options at some point in your life. We're all getting older. Our reflexes, our eyesight, our hearing is not going to be the way it once was in our teens and early 20s. It's going to get to a point where you're going to need these options. And we are seeing that video games is a growing medium for not just kids anymore. It's for all us adults that grew up in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. There's still going to be adults as part of one of the larger demographics in the video game space. And we're going to need these options if we want to keep having video games as a hobby. So this benefits not only just those players now that need it, that have a disability, but it also will benefit you future down the line when you want to be able to play the next Call of Duty and you can't, because you can't see that enemy far off in the distance because of just if it is not accessible to you. So this is something that everyone should care about, because accessibility is beyond just people with disabilities. It's for everybody. Accessibility, it makes it so that if you have a problem being able to play a game, if you're uncomfortable trying to be able to play a game, there are options there that can help you. And it's not to be able to make games easier. It's not about trying to be able to cheat the system. It's about making it so that you can enjoy a game, and hopefully your next favorite game. So that's it. I know it's just a quick little rant, but I hope you got something out of this. But please, if you take away anything from this, share, talk about it, post about it, make content about it. The more people, the louder our conversation about accessibility can be, the more it will show studios and higher ups that this is important. This is something that we want to have in these games. And hopefully 5-10 years from now, I don't have to come back on camera and say the same thing. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please share it if you can. I really would appreciate that, because again, we need more voices out there. We need to be able to have more people talk about it. So please share it. I would really appreciate it. If you have any questions about anything, leave a comment down below, or better yet, hit me up on Twitter at Steve Saylor, and I'll try to answer as best I can. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. As always, I remain obediently yours.